Cat and Mouse in Partnership. A tale from Brothers Grimm. A certain cat had made the acquaintance of a mouse, and had said so much to her about the great love and friendship she felt for her that at length the mouse agreed they should live and keep house together. "But we must make provision for the winter, or else we shall suffer from hunger," said the cat, "and you, little mouse, cannot venture everywhere, or you will be caught in a trap some day." The good advice was followed, a pot of fat was bought, but they did not know where to put it. At length, after much consideration, the cat said, "I know of no place where it will be better stored up than in the church, for no one dares take anything away from there. We will set it beneath the altar, and not touch it unless we are really in need of it." So the pot was placed in safety, but it was not long before the cat had a great yearning for it, and said to the mouse, "I want to tell you something, little mouse. My cousin has brought a son into the world, and has asked me to be godmother. He is white with brown spots, and I am to hold him over the font at the christening. Let me go out today, and you look after the house by yourself." "Yes, yes," answered the mouse. "By all means go, and if you get anything very good, think of me. I should like a drop of sweet red christening wine, too." All this, however, was untrue. The cat had no cousin, and had not been asked to be godmother. She went straight to the church, stole the pot of fat, began to lick at it, and licked the top of the fat off. Then she took a walk upon the roofs of town, looked out for opportunities, and stretched herself in the sun, and licked her lips whenever she thought of the pot of fat. She did not return home until evening. "Here you are again," said the mouse. "No doubt you have had a merry day." "All went off well," said the cat. "What name did they give the child?" "Top off," said the cat quite coolly. "Top off?" cried the mouse. "That is a very odd and uncommon name. Is it a usual one in your family?" "What does it signify?" said the cat. "It is no worse than Crumb-stealer, as your godchildren are called." Before long the cat was seized by another fit of longing, and she said to the mouse, "You must do me a favour. Once more manage the house for a day alone. I am asked to be godmother again, and as the child has a white ring around its neck, I cannot refuse." The good mouse consented, but the cat crept behind the town walls to the church, and devoured half the pot of fat. "Nothing ever seems so good as what one keeps to oneself," said she, and was quite satisfied with her day's work. When she went home, the mouse inquired, "What was this child christened?" "Half done," said the cat. "Half done? What are you saying? I have never heard the name in my life. I'll wager anything it's not in the calendar." The cat's mouth soon began to water from more licking. "All good things go in threes," said she. "I am asked to stand godmother again. The child is quite black, only it has white paws, but with that exception it is not a single white hair on its whole body. This only happens once every few years. You'll let me go, won't you?" "Top off, half done," answered the mouse. "Such odd names, they make me very thoughtful." "You sit at home," said the cat, "in your dark grey fur coat and long tail, and are filled with fancies because you do not go out in the daytime." During the cat's absence, the mouse cleaned the house and put it in order. The greedy cat entirely emptied the pot of fat. "When everything is eaten up, one has some peace," said she to herself, and well filled and fat she did not return home till night. The mouse at once asked what name had been given to the third child. "It will not please you any more than the others," said the cat. "He's called All Gone." "All Gone?" cried the mouse. "That is the most suspicious name of all. I've never seen it in print. All Gone? What does it mean?" She shook her head, curled herself up, and lay down to sleep. From this time forth no one invited the cat to be godmother, but when winter had come and there was no longer anything to be found outside, the mouse thought of their provision and said, "Come, cat, we will go to our pot of fat that we stored up for ourselves. We shall enjoy that." "Oh, yes," said the cat. "You enjoy it as much as you would enjoy sticking that dainty tongue of yours out the window." They set out on their way, but when they arrived, the pot of fat certainly was still in place, but it was empty. "Alas," said the mouse, "now I see what has happened, and it comes to light. You're a true friend. You devoured all when you were standing godmother. First top off, then half done, then—" "Hold your tongue," cried the cat. "One word more, and I will eat you too." All Gone was already on the poor mouse's lips. Scarcely had she spoken it before the cat sprang on her, seized her, and swallowed her down. And verily, that is the way of the world. The end. The Little Folks' Presents. A tale of Brothers Grimm. A tailor and a goldsmith were traveling together, and one evening when the sun sank behind the mountains, they heard the sound of distant music, which became more and more distinct. It sounded strange, but so pleasant they forgot all their weariness and stepped quickly onward. The moon had already arisen when they reached a hill on which they saw a crowd of little men and women who had taken one another's hands and were whirling around in the dance with the greatest pleasure and delight. They sang to it most charmingly, and that was the music which the travellers had heard. In the midst of them sat an old man who was rather taller than the rest. He wore a party-coloured coat, and his iron-grey beard hung down over his breast. The two remained standing full of astonishment and watched the dance. The old man made a sign that they should enter, and the little folks willingly opened their circle. The goldsmith, who had a hump and like all hunchbacks was brave enough, stepped in. The tailor felt a little afraid at first and held back, but when he saw how merrily all was going, he plucked up his courage and followed. The circle closed again directly, and the little folks went on singing and dancing with the wildest leaps. The old man, however, took a large knife which hung to his girdle, whetted it, and when it was sufficiently sharpened, looked round at the strangers. They were terrified, but had not much time for reflection, for the old man seized the goldsmith, and with the greatest speed shaved the hair of his head clean off, and then the same thing happened to the tailor. But their fear left them when, after he'd finished his work, the old man clapped them both on the shoulder in a friendly manner, as much as to say they had behaved well to let all that be done to them willingly, and without any struggle. He pointed with his finger to a heap of coals which lay at one side, and signified to the travellers by gestures they were to fill their pockets with them. Both obeyed, though they did not know of what use the coals would be, and then they went on their way to seek a shelter for the night. When they had got into the valley, the clock of the neighbouring monastery struck 12, and the song ceased. In a moment all had vanished, and the hill lay in solitude in the moonlight. The two travellers found an inn and covered themselves up on their straw beds with their coats, but in weariness forgot to take the coals out of them before so doing. A heavy weight on their limbs awakened them earlier than usual. They felt in the pockets and could not believe their eyes when they saw that they were not filled with coals, as they had thought, but with pure gold. Happily, too, the hair of their heads and beards was there again as thick as ever. They had now become rich, but the goldsmith, who, in accordance with his greedy disposition, had filled his pockets better, was as rich again as the tailor. A greedy man, even if he has much, still wishes to have more. So the goldsmith proposed to the tailor they should wait another day and go out again in the evening in order to bring back still greater treasures from the old man on the hill. The tailor refused, and said, "I have enough, and am content. I shall now be a master, and marry my dear object," for so he called his sweetheart, "and I am a happy man." But he stayed another day to please his friend. In the evening the goldsmith hung a couple of bags over his shoulders that he might be able to stow away a great deal, and took the road to the hill. He found, as on the night before, the little folks at their singing and dancing, and the old man again shaved him clean and signed him to take some coal away with him. He was not slow about sticking as much into his bags as would go, went back quite delighted, and covered himself over with his coat. "Even if the gold does weigh heavily," says he, "I will gladly bear it," and at last he fell asleep with a sweet anticipation of waking in the morning an enormously rich man. When he opened his eyes, he got up in haste to examine his pockets, but was amazed when he drew nothing out of them but black coals, and that howsoever often he put his hands in. "The gold I got the night before is still there for me," he thought, and went and brought it out, but how shocked he was when he saw it had likewise turned again into coal. He smote his forehead with his dusty black hand, and felt that his whole head was bald and smooth, as was also the place where his beard should have been. But his misfortunes were not yet over, for he now remarked for the first time that in addition to the lump on his back, a second just as large had grown in front on his breast. Then he recognized the punishment of his greediness and began to weep aloud. The good tailor, who was wakened by this, comforted the unhappy fellow as well as he could, and said, "Thou hast been my comrade in my travelling time, thou shalt stay with me and share in my wealth." He kept his word, but the poor goldsmith was obliged to carry the two humps as long as he lived, and to cover his bald head with a cap. The end.